Welcome back to my series. We're on part 2. I printed everything off this time so that it would be a little bit easier to read and not have to try and look at my computer screen. I started this because God told me that I needed to share my story. And I want everyone out there to know and feel the love that God has for them, even though they may not know it yet. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter where you come from. He wants all of us. He wants all of our loves. We need to make heaven crowded. And I think that's an amazing thing. Today I'll be rereading chapter 3, and I don't know if I'm going to read 3 and 4, but I may go a little bit further. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. I got everybody quiet in the house for a moment. No TV's on or anything. You might hear the dogs running back and forth, but that's about it. Here we go. Chapter 3 is called Daddy's Little Darling. My daddy wasn't a bedtime story and baseball glove kind of father. He was a tattoos, prison letter, and promises scratched in blue ink from behind bars. I grew up knowing him more by his handwriting than his voice. He used to start every letter saying, "Daddy's little darling." And for a while, that's all I had of him. There were years where I'd stare at the mailbox like it was some kind of portal. A letter meant I still existed in somebody's heart. He was the only person who told me I was smart, told me I was worth something. In a world full of adults that treated me like treated me like background noise, he made me feel seen, even if it was on the other side of a razor wire. When I finally saw him again, I didn't recognize the man standing on the other side of the door. His face had changed. It had hardened. There were teardrops tattooed on his cheek, ones I'd never asked about. I was too busy falling to the floor. My knees gave out. The air left my lungs. The only thing that felt real were his arms around me, holding me like I was still his baby girl and not a broken teenager high on meth. We cried like the years had punched holes in both of us. He had Daddy's little darling tattooed on his hand, my name scratched across his chest. I was a part of him. It was permanent. It was painful. But he couldn't stay. He was living in a recovery house and had another year before he was allowed out. So after a few hours of crying, laughing, holding each other like we could press time backwards, he had to leave again. After that visit, I tried to hold on to the little light that he gave me, but it was dim. I was spiraling fast, hanging out with people who cooked meth like it was breakfast, dating men 10 years older than me, and I had dropped out of school like it was no big deal. I kept saying I was grown, but the truth was I was a kid starving for love, finding nothing but shadows and bad decisions. Life became this endless loop of getting high, getting used, getting dumped back into reality with bruises and empty pockets. I was passed around like an afterthought. The only thing keeping me from total collapse was the memory of those arms that wrapped around me. The way my dad said my name like it meant something. He believed in me, but I didn't believe in myself. Not yet. Chapter 4. living like I was already gone. By the time I was 16, I was living like a ghost with a heartbeat. I had already learned how to disappear in plain sight, how to smile when I was dying, how to flirt when I was starving, and how to survive in a world that didn't care if I made it or not. Home had become a rotating cast of strangers, couches, and drug dealer floors. I was passed around like a pack of smokes, traded for favors, rides, or hits. I stopped asking why people hurt me. I just learned how to deal with it. One guy, older than me and old enough to know better, handed me a baggie and told me to hide it. "You're a minor," he said. "They'll go easy on you." I didn't blink. I just tucked it into my underwear and got quiet. The fear came later, when the cops pulled us over and I realized that it wasn't all a bad dream. This was my life. I gave up the drugs without a fight. I cried in the back of a cruiser like a little girl because that's what I was, even if nobody saw it. I spent 2 nights in jail, cold and hungry, and not nearly as tough as I had pretended to be. And just like that, I became a runner, not just from the law, but from everything: pain, love, hope, truth. The minute I made bail, I was right back in the streets, ducking court dates and dodging anything that felt like accountability. I didn't care if I died. Honestly, I figured I'd already had. I just hadn't stopped breathing yet. Then came the real humiliation, being told that I couldn't stay. Not by the state, not by the cops, by my own blood. The sister I had been crashing with packed her things and said, "You can't come." They were broke. I was baggage, a mouth to feed with a drug habit to match. I was officially nobody's problem. So I did what I had been trained to do since birth. I hustled. I found a new man, new place to crash, new lies to tell. I was 18 by this time and wrecked in ways even drugs couldn't fix. I was trying to fill a void with meth, men, and danger, but the void didn't shrink. It grew. It always grew. I stopped believing I'd ever have a normal life. I was just trying to stay alive long enough to forget that I was alive. There was no plan, no dream, just smoke, sweat, and a sound of my own heart beating like a war drum in my chest. I wasn't living. I was waiting to be forgotten. That was 3 and 4. That's when my life began to spiral. I had a horrible drug habit, as you heard. And I felt I had nobody. I didn't want to live. I didn't want anything. But God was still watching out for me, even though I didn't see it yet. I didn't see it until way later in life. But even through all that chaos, He was still had His hand on me and was still holding me and was still watching after me. So if you ever think that what you've done is too wrong, it's not. He loves you and He wants you to come home. He's waiting on the porch with wide arms, waiting on you, waiting for you to come home. He's a good and faithful Father. I hope this reaches who it needs to reach. Thank you.